Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. As Gina mentioned, I'm the Associate Dean of Professional Programs and Graduate Affairs for the College of Science, which means I get the perspective of both an administrator and faculty who teaches online courses. And have been really excited to and continue to partner with O'Donnell Learn on this initiative that's really added tremendous value to our faculty and relieved a lot of stress from me in trying to help our faculty execute their content. And with that, I'll pass it off to John to get us rocking and rolling here.
Sounds good. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us this afternoon. I won't take additional time here, but what I will say is thank you to Jared. Been a tremendous partner at Northeastern, very forward-thinking and supportive of trying new models to provide faculty personalized support to enhance their learning design and delivery. So we're very appreciative of that, and I'm really looking forward to this session. Now, with that being said, I come to O'Donnell Learn and ISG from the UNC System Office, and I had a really good view on and my role really was implementing faculty support and development initiatives across our 17 institutions as I was working in the UNC System Office. I got a really good view of pre and during pandemic in the shifts and the changes and how many things were still the same, but how they were exacerbated. And we'll talk a little bit about that today. So moving forward, I think what I'd like to do here is just spend a little time on setting the context and discussion of where we are headed. So let me start with market research. So market research, particularly in the areas of learning design and faculty support, is in our DNA at O'Donnell Learn and ISG. Throughout our 30-year history of O'Donnell Learn, our products and services have been informed by faculty support personnel, and administrators through mixed methods research. And most recently, over the last 3 years or so, we've been focused on exploring the importance of evolving the learning experience design from the administrator, provost, and faculty perspectives, as well as from faculty support perspective as well. Folks who are in centers for teaching and learning, distance education organizations, they're all part of our research pool. And so one of the things that we focused on was the priority of learning initiatives as identified by provosts and how this squares with faculty online course development activities and support needs. So the outcomes of this research have led to an innovative and personalized faculty support solution that we call the Faculty Concierge. It's also led to a really strong partnership with Northeastern and other institutions to leverage the Faculty Concierge to increase faculty success and, above all, increase equitable student success as a result of uplifting and enhancing faculty to teach online. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole pre-COVID, post-COVID. I think over the last year or so, we've had lots of discussions in those areas and comparing and contrasting prior to and during COVID, but you'll see that mixed in here, and that will be part of our discussion as well. So we started our research back in 2019, and we really wanted to gauge academic administrators and leaders and what their what was their, how important did they feel it was to evolve the current student learning experience? And as you can see here, nearly 100% found this to be important or very important, with 72% of the respondents saying this is very important. But not only that, they helped us to understand why in a couple of key areas, particularly in rethinking the student audience and especially the returning adults to higher education. But they also thought that evolving the student learning experience was very important to increasing retention and completion by improving learner engagement. And we've learned a lot about that over the last 2 years or so, but we as faculty, instructional designers, have known this for a while, that online learning requires tremendous learner engagement to support motivation and success. But what the academic leaders also told us was that the existing faculty development support at their institutions wasn't working because it didn't engage the faculty. And so they're looking for new ways to engage faculty to help them to evolve the student learning experience. And then as a result, the institutions are struggling to scale their learning design initiatives because faculty preparedness, availability, and the effectiveness and efficiency of the learning design just isn't there because the faculty development support systems are not in place. Thus, they are impacting the scaling of these learning design initiatives. Some of these initiatives, or these initiatives that they identified, again, these are the academic leaders, range from course redesign to workforce alignment to OER and affordability. And many of these institutions, greater than 90%, are working on more than one of these initiatives that were identified. And as you can see, around close to 75% of these initiatives identified by the administrators were around flexible delivery and emphasis on greater equity and inclusion. So, as we got an idea of where our academic leaders' priorities are and where some of their key initiatives are, we started to think about and study, well, where are the faculty spending their time and how much are they spending, right? So what we found is that on average for the faculty who participated in this study, they're spending around 50 hours to prep for a first-time online course. And then as they start to venture into this semester, their pre-semester activities, they expend an additional 23 or so hours. But then there's the iterative, ongoing design and development that they're doing between weekly classes, lectures, and at a module level, right? And they're spending an additional 8 hours per week on this iterative design. So faculty are putting in the time, right? But where are they spending their energy, and how are they, and what is the outcome of these redesign initiatives?
I think too, the thing too, John, right, is faculty are putting in the time, but oftentimes it's their own time after hours, between meetings, whenever they can squish it in, right? So they need to maximize the efficiency of that time that they're putting in.
Yes, that's a great point. Thank you, Jared. And so when we look at where the faculty are expending their time and what they're devoting it to, now in 2020, we're finding that while 42% of the faculty who participated had little to no online experience, right? And nearly half were mirroring their face-to-face classes in the online environment. However, faculty were reporting that they are generally very confident in their teaching online. So what we found is, okay, now we understand how much time faculty are willing to put into the redesign and development process, where they're focusing their time and effort in redesign activities, and obviously what their experience of in the online environment is. What we wanted to do was to create a more efficient, more effective faculty support process, and we'll talk about that.
And every time I see that previous slide, it makes me think too, right? Faculty aren't trained to be teachers. There's very little pedagogical training for faculty to be teachers, speaking even from my own experience. And that's geared at didactic on-ground learning. So when you transition that to the online space, I mean, there's even less understanding of what good pedagogy is to develop an online course and what's involved with that. I mean, you all probably as I am just used to people saying, I'm going to record myself and put it up there, and that's good enough, right? And you know, so we're not trained teachers, and when you transition to the online space, it makes it even more challenging. One, to get the understanding, but also to implement best practice.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good point and a good segue into our next area of exploration into faculty needs and support. When we asked faculty who had identified that they needed additional support and resources, we asked them, what would be most important to you? One is how to use the technology, or two, teaching approaches, which would be pedagogical strategies, instructional strategies, and what meant more to them. Well, about 45% said both were equally important, whereas you can see the other breakdown where 30% found how to use technology was of greatest importance to them, and another 22% said that their teaching approaches for online would be of greatest importance. So what we're seeing here, and the way we interpret this, is faculty need a spectrum of support, from technology support, how to implement, how to design and develop in your learning management system from a technology perspective, or how to implement a specific learning technology to complement your instructional strategy. But also, faculty are also interested in learning more about pedagogical approaches so that they can enhance and create more efficient, effective learning online. But they're also looking for resources, ready to use resources to guide them along. And as a result of our early research, work from our Vice President for Learning Effectiveness, Dr. Brett Christie out of the CSU system. If you all know Brett, I think you've been on these discussions before. Brett has tremendous background experience in quality online learning for teaching. He's also led the Quality Matters initiative at CSU. But when he came to O'Donnell Learn, he and Carrie O'Donnell, our CEO, worked together to create this purposeful learning framework, a framework that helps faculty and guides them through a efficient and quick way to uplift their courses so that it creates a humanized approach to online learning design. It enhances inclusivity and increases engagement. So the point of bringing this up is that faculty are looking for resources to help guide them, quick resources. We know Quality Matters is one resource out there, quality online learning and teaching, but those are very intensive support mechanisms. They're great. I was responsible for implementing QM across the UNC system, but as an immediate quick resource, Purposeful Learning Framework does that. There are 8 elements to it. Those elements on the left are more from a technical design and development perspective for a humanized, inclusive, and engaged learning experience. But when we get onto the right, and those 4 elements of the Purposeful Learning Framework are related to the affectual elements of delivering humanized and inclusive learning, everything from humanizing and learner empathy to equity inclusion. So just a resource you might be interested in getting that. It is an open resource available to anyone who seeks to use it. So in 2021, after we started to gather and synthesize the data from 2019, 2020, we implemented what we called the Nectar design panels. Now I'm going to take a quick step aside. Nectar is a platform that we have brought to market. It includes several components to provide a very humanized and personalized faculty support experience. And I'm going to leave that there for now, but in our design panels, we have administrators, faculty support personnel, and everyone in between. And throughout 2021, we had about 50 different exercises that this group of about 70 or so participants participated in. And these ranged from discussions to surveys to demonstrations and feedback to reviewing, assessing, providing feedback on our user interface and features and functionality. At the end of the day, we looked for themes that were identified through all these activities. And for a new faculty support solution to be successful, these folks identified that it must address the strain and burnout. As you know, the pandemic simply exacerbated the strain and burnout that faculty were feeling prior to, right? They're overwhelmed. They've got a lot of work to do to prepare and deliver instruction, as well as everything else that goes on within the higher education. But the another important thing that we found out is that mostly they wanted tactical support. They wanted to come to someone with, and maybe it's an immediate need or something that they've been working on for the last week or so, and say, hey, look, I've got this quick issue. Maybe it's creating an authentic assessment. And I just need someone to guide me and create that so that I can get it implemented in my next lesson. They weren't looking for, well, what is instructional design? What is pedagogy? What is the appropriate strategy? They just wanted to get fixed and move on and then come back the following week with additional things. As well, in addition, community is very important to a successful faculty success program and a faculty support program. And I know probably the majority of you out there are saying, yep, makes sense. I've seen it at the UNC system, and I've seen it with all of my work prior to that. Faculty want to work with their peers. Subject matter experts want to work with their peers, and they want the ability to communicate effectively and efficiently and share resources. The other key to a successful faculty success program, a faculty support program, is flexibility, right? Faculty are teaching and instructing during the day. Many times they're updating, enhancing their courses at night. As Jared mentioned earlier, they're doing this on their time, and they want that support to be available on their time, which many of the times is 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. in the morning. And then the other thing is all of their work that they are doing, and all of the products, the artifacts that they're creating, they wanted to ensure that these learning artifacts, things that they're developing, are integrated with institutional processes and annual evaluation processes. So it's easy for them to demonstrate their commitment to ongoing quality and what they've been working on. So as we take our next step, what we'd like to do is, one, ask you about how are faculty supported on your campus today? Is it scalable? What are the challenges and successes? And what about our research and the things that we're finding stick out to you? And so we're going to have a chat session open. You feel free to drop in some thoughts here, or the mic will be open and we'd love to hear your thoughts and input. And we'll have that open for the next 5 minutes or so.
Actually interesting when I was looking at the data again, John, thinking to myself, it would be really interesting, and you probably already have this, to really tease out the data in a more granular level, right? Like, what are the differences in higher education that's really focused on teaching, right? There's what we would consider teaching schools, versus, like Northeastern is an R1 research institution, and 55 to 95% of my faculty will say they're not in the business of teaching students, they're in the business of research. Versus those same R1 institutions that might have a separate online school component, like I'm from Massachusetts, so UMass has UMass Online, right? And all the online stuff is facilitated through there. So it's just really interesting as I was looking at the data to sort of think about those things.
Yeah, and it's how do you engage faculty, right? And how do you make it engaging for them and create the motivation for them to want to participate? I see something here from Brandy. We have a faculty management department that handles faculty services and support, quality evaluation, etc. They work collaboratively with the college leadership. I think it works really well. Brandy, maybe you can share why it's successful, and that would be really helpful, I think, to us in the audience, if you're willing. Maybe the top 2 or 3 reasons. Oh, thank you. And feel free to use the mic if you'd like.
Hi, can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Okay, great. Yeah, so we're a pretty large institution, and so I think that's part of why it works well, because we have so many faculty and multiple colleges, and each college has faculty supervisors, meaning that they work with the faculty who teach in their college. So we maintain that direct connection, and they're ultimately the ones that are working with their faculty on a regular basis, providing coaching, providing support, answering questions, giving kudos when they do well. So that's directly related to the college. But the faculty engagement team also works collaboratively to do evaluations, to provide like general faculty meetings for engagement, and then each college runs their own specific content meetings, so, again, specific to the focus for their college, so that we can make sure that we're having that direct connection. So it sort of shares the responsibility, which makes it easier for the colleges, but also allows each college to work directly with their faculty in a very one-on-one manner. So it's a great support system.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like it. It sounds like it. Are there others out there who would like to share what's working and what doesn't? What are some of the gaps? Okay, David McCurry. From our 2017 article in Faculty Focus, here is another model foundation for a concierge approach. We are currently working on a concierge faculty development book proposal. Well, that's fantastic. David, would you like to talk a little bit about that? Which institution are you? I can't see that here.
I think I have my mic open now. This is just an idea that we have workshopped around at a number of different associations and organizations on the 10 pivotal keys of the concierge model. And a lot of it aligns very well with the work that you're doing. And really appreciate your holding this session so that we can kind of go back to the idea of developing very unique approaches to working with the individual faculty member. Our model sort of accentuates the idea that each course is very, very unique and very idiosyncratic, even though we have to pay attention to the more general approaches that are imposed by the institution or even by the subject matter and departments at institutions. I think it's important for us to recognize that every faculty member sort of brings a unique skill set and experience to what they do, and each course is very, very unique in its own respect. And we find that we get further traction in developing the courses when we approach it that way. Of course, the big challenge is finding ways to scale it up, and I'm very, very interested in how O'Donnell Learn has been able to develop that into a system that can scale up for an institution that has very, very severe or large needs for redesigning courses across the program.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you from Greenville, South Carolina. My wife, Dr. Bondi Mullenix, is also online here too, and she can say a little bit more about that if she wants to. But we're adjuncting at different places and have worked in the area of faculty development and course redesign for decades now, I guess. Thank you.
Oh, of course, yeah. We do have another minute or so to, if you would like to offer thoughts as well.
Okay, I think you can hear me because when I raised my hand, which I will now lower, you gave me mic access, so that works out very well. I think I will say that Dave and I have both been at multiple institutions, and one of the challenges, which I think you touched upon, and one of the reasons that we approach it from a concierge terminology as well, is the idea that faculty need to be empowered and respected. And the things that concierges do particularly well, and as we know them in other places, is listen and hear what people need, and then make sure that those people are getting whatever they need. And that seems to be central in what you're doing as well. And it's also involves communication skills that are critically important very often. And this is the one divide that I think is part of your subtext, but you might want to say more about that. And that is very often in higher ed with educational development, sometimes we have our systems separate in terms of Center for Teaching and Learning is over here, and over here is online instructional development. And occasionally they're integrated, occasionally they collaborate, but oftentimes it's also just this schism in how anyone talks to each other. And when you're deep into instructional design and the technology side, sometimes it's a challenge to talk with faculty in a way that they can hear and understand and is grounded in their practice. And especially when they're taking their face-to-face, which I now am, I swear, after a couple years of Zoom and doing Zoom before, I am now using in-person. So your in-person courses online, understanding that difference, it takes a lot of communication and a lot of understanding and a lot of clarification not to have the terminology be embedded. Yes. So having been involved from both sides, but primarily the directing and facilitating centers for teaching and learning, I find that communication is really critical. And that's why we went in that direction as well. I like your community part because that's always a centerpiece of mine, but not necessarily as much as we've delved. So this is interesting. I hand it back.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. So, and that's actually a good segue into introducing the faculty concierge. And I don't want to give this a light overview, but it's more important that you hear from Jared and how this works. So I'll kind of tee it up and then turn it right over to Jared. And Jared, feel free to jump in as I'm going through this. But why do we think this is going to work? Well, basically our research with understanding what the challenges are, what it takes for success. But there are also what we see as 3 systemic shifts in higher ed today that are supporting this. And I'm sure you all see this as well, right? We've gone through COVID. Faculty have had a chance to dip, many more faculty have had a chance to dip their toes in the water and find out, you know, I can be effective online, be remote, and support my students. And oh, by the way, this is turning into what we've seen in many articles and research now. Prior to pandemic, about 15% of our courses had online components, digital components. But post-pandemic, we're looking at about 85% of our courses will permanently include digital learning experiences, right? So what's going to happen? Well, in addition to pre-pandemic burden, the burdens that are pushing on faculty now and stressing faculty to create greater learning experiences, that's just going to increase, right? As we're making this shift post-pandemic. And quite frankly, there's about 2.2 million faculty around the nation and just 60,000 learning instructional designers. And they're not spread evenly across all of our institutions. The other key systemic shift is institutions and leadership are understanding the need to increase budgets to the care, success, and development of both students and faculty. And this is where we come in by synthesizing our research, looking at the systemic shifts, and bringing forward the faculty concierge. So what is it? I think
also something interesting, right?
Yeah, sure, Jared, go ahead.
Coming out of the pandemic, it's never been more obvious to both administrators and faculty. Okay, to administrators, maybe not so much to faculty, but students don't want to come to the classroom just to listen to the faculty give a 50-minute or 90-minute PowerPoint presentation, whatever it might be. There's no value in that to them. They would rather watch that from their dorm room. So one of the things that I think is crucial and that I try to promote, and I think why something like the concierge is going to be even more important in the future, right, is that 85% that remains online. I actually think that every course that we execute at the university should have online content developed for it that students can go through. And then if it's a didactic on-ground course, historically, the faculty can either flip the classroom or do something more creative to take advantage of the course time in the classroom, as opposed to just essentially what many of us have experienced in colleges where, you know, the faculty is reiterating what's in the textbook or some article that you would have read, right? You got to do better at engaging the students, and by having online content they can go through on their own, where they can come to an understanding and you can really dive deep in the classroom is crucially important. So I think that the online aspects, both of asynchronous and sort of more synchronous type linked activities is crucial. And also for universities like mine and programs like mine that hire lots of adjunct faculty who don't do course development, then all the content is developed for them, and they can take their time making the content delivery better, as opposed to being like, I don't have any content.
Right. Yep. Thanks for that, Jared. So introducing the faculty concierge, what is it? How does it work? Very quickly. The faculty concierge, as I mentioned earlier, is a very personalized support service for faculty in the areas of learning experience design. And we like to hone in on helping faculty create the humanized, inclusive, and engaged learning through this faculty concierge concept. It includes both proactive and reactive support. So it's 24/7. Faculty can reach out at any time whenever they're working on designing their courses. It provides both technical, pedagogical support for faculty. And because we have such a deep bench of resources and expertise, I think we're nearing 170 plus learning designers who are hybrids. They're both learning designers and subject matter experts, and the majority of them actually teach as adjuncts and professors at other institutions. So we have resources that can be highly personalized and specific to a subject matter that helps to go a long way with faculty in providing that level of comfort. And I would also say, that peer-to-peer camaraderie and respect. The other piece is we have those specialized experts in the areas of accessibility, universal design for learning, and various other ways to design. But our folks help with the design and development, but they also help faculty in the delivery, which is a big gap in the support that faculty are receiving today. And it's one that we are closing with our partner institutions. Now, we're not looking to create an island of instructional design support. Our faculty concierge is flexible, it's dynamic to integrate directly into the institutional initiatives, to work as a complement to an existing Center for Teaching and Learning. We're not trying to create our own island here. We're trying to support and provide greater capacity to existing on-campus services, right? So we can help with creating greater capacity for learning design, providing greater expertise. Many of these CTLs include 2 or 3 instructional designers, and the expertise there might be a bit limited, where we could bring in folks who provide adaptive learning expertise or accessibility expertise. So the expertise is there, the resources there, it's 24/7, it's a white glove support for faculty. And anytime a faculty member calls in, they have this faculty support team, very similar to what you get at healthcare, where you have a patient support team. Well, you have all of these resources, these skill sets and expertise available to you when you're having your one-on-one synchronous instructional design consultations or designing and developing assets together. But what enriches this experience and helps to facilitate it is I talked about our Nectar platform earlier. One component of the Nectar platform is what we call the profile, and Jared, I'm going to finish up here quickly, is what we call the profile in Nectar. And this is a humanized, tech-enabled faculty support system, if you will. What you're looking at right here is a faculty profile for John Doe. It includes the best times to contact John to follow up on a request that he might have, when John conducts his course and development prep time. It also includes things about John's preferred pedagogical preferences, John's instructional strategies that he employs, as well as where John believes his needs for course or program redesign are, where he feels he needs enhancements, so that we, when John gets on the call, we can get right to work with him and guide him to resources to support his continued design and development, his iterative design and development, or just understand how John likes to teach, where he's teaching, which courses he's teaching, and provide him with resources to do that. So there's support, it's humanized and a high impact experience. We have technology behind the scenes to complement our one-on-one support, as well as the data and analytics that we can pull at the individual level and at the institutional level to target cohort-based training based on the interactions and engagement requests that we're getting from faculty and various other types of data analytics that go along with design and delivery. The other thing to keep in mind too, all of the activity that's going on within this profile is captured on behalf of the faculty and on behalf of the instructors. So at the end of the year, for the annual faculty evaluations, John Doe would click one button and everything that he's worked on this year, all of his assets and all of the time spent on designing, developing, and enhancing his course would be right there that he can share with his department head or his dean. I'm going to leave it there and turn it over to Jared. Now, Jared, as I mentioned earlier, is a great partner at Northeastern University, and he recently subscribed his team and faculty to participate in what we call the Faculty Success Program. That is a flavor of the faculty concierge that we offer, and it has targeted support for faculty. I'm going to leave that there and turn it over to you, Jared.
Yeah, thanks, John. And this first slide is just meant to set the stage. So, one of the marquee programs that we deliver at Northeastern is our online master's in biotechnology. And anybody who's a scientist, just as a side note, there are some on-ground portions that we deliver, in a 1 week intensive if it's not over a whole semester. But we do have a 99.5% fully online master's program in biotechnology. All the online courses are asynchronous, and we have the on-ground version offered. The interesting thing is, I had mentioned earlier, traditional faculty, people like myself who are full-time faculty, aren't trained in the pedagogy of teaching. But one might argue over the years of being an academic, we sort of get a grasp on how to teach effectively, maybe not routed in any good pedagogy, but at least get an idea. In this program in particular, 90%, and that's probably on the low end, of our faculty are adjuncts on purpose, not people who adjunct at many different universities because they love to teach, but people who are in the industry working full-time, 9 to 5, which of course is not 9 to 5. It's like, 7 to midnight or whatever. And they're doing this on their own time for mentoring students and basically the love of teaching and interacting with students for the profession. So really even less time, I would argue, than what a traditional faculty might have to think about how to develop an online course content. And sadly, the university also, we pay the adjuncts to teach. We currently don't have a sort of mechanism to support them to develop content, right? For online course delivery, we have a mechanism for that, but if they're delivering a on-ground didactic course, sometimes we'll just hand them a blank Canvas page with a title and a blank syllabus and say, yeah, thanks for teaching, and we forgot to tell you, you got to develop the whole thing. We got nothing, right? So that's where some of my comments around online content for courses existing makes a lot of sense for us. Next slide, please, John.
You got it.
So really, in thinking about this, and I'm a faculty myself, and I teach, one of this, and I put this picture back up here that we saw earlier with the sort of stress on the faculty. Like I have experienced myself on teaching my online course, and I'm going through, and it's, I checked at the beginning of the semester, and I'm like, okay, it's good to go. Maybe I didn't check it at the beginning of the semester, but let's just pretend I did. And, I get to week 6 and we're going through the process, and all of a sudden something's not working, right? And the university doesn't have resources for me to tap into to help me with simple things like uploading a video, right? And I will literally, because I have so many other things to do, and I just sat down and I want to teach and do whatever I need to do, feel like a mush of stress just falling off of my chair, not having any resources or any idea what to do. Not that I'm saying it's hard to upload a video, it's just that extra 5 minutes of mental bandwidth that I don't have to do it, right? So it can be quite stressful, which then affects the students, right? So we want to make sure that we support our instructors so that we have best student success. Oftentimes our adjunct faculty are inheriting, or all of our faculty really are inheriting somebody else's content, which means maybe it's not exactly what they want. Maybe they don't even understand what the other person put in there, but we don't, we hand it to them and that's it. We don't have any resources for them to tinker with it or do anything to do that. So we really thought, having a group of faculty and a mix of that faculty with some experience online teaching and some with none take part in this faculty success program was a good way to see how we can help better support them, increase their bandwidth and reduce the strain on them. It also reduces the strain on me because if there's a problem, I'm the person they come to and I don't have any time to help them either. So it's been great in that context of really providing that concierge type service for the faculty, right? And like John said, most of our faculty are looking at their courses and trying to update them at like midnight or 1 a.m. And if I'm up at midnight or 1 a.m. working, I'm working on stuff that I need to be working on. I don't have time to try to help figure it out for them. So that's been also very helpful. And even I think they come weekly. The weekly emails of sort of nuggets of information. Did you know or did you try? It's also proven very helpful for our faculty, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. And like I said, we're not trained in pedagogy of online learning. So, we have no idea. So if we can learn new things to make our courses better, that's all the better for us.
Jared, can I just make one really quick point because you hit on it, and that is those weekly messages that you get. What Jared is referring to is what we call nudges to faculty. So if it's the beginning of the semester, hey, have you updated your syllabus to make it more humanized? Here's a link to a really good example. Use that. And there are other nudges that go out and are that go out throughout the semester based on where we are in the life cycle of that semester. So they're context specific.
Yeah, so thanks, John. Perfect, exactly right. And one of the most frustrating, perhaps, things for me at the university is, our online content, our online courses are delivered out of the regular program. So, the on-ground and online master's program in biotechnology is supported by the same infrastructure. We do have an internal online content development team that's overtaxed, right? There's 30,000 students at Northeastern, there's several thousand faculty, and probably there's 10 learning designers, and they also have to do a lot of business to business development to try to generate revenue outside of the traditional course development and execution content. So resources are strained. When we can get them to develop an online course from scratch, that's great. But once that happens, we're on our own, right? So the resources are centralized and limited. The adjunct faculty aren't full-time faculty at the university. They don't even know where to get these resources. They don't know, like, I know who to contact and have quote unquote friends in the university who will do me favors, but other faculty don't. So having something that we can give to them that's centralized, easy, and that we can sort of control out of our own unit in partnership with O'Donnell Learn is great for that, right? Like I mentioned, many of our faculty are adjuncts, which we hire because they're experts in their field and they can bring that latest learning or technology from the day at their day job to the classroom, but they don't have any idea or time to really think about online course content and delivery. And probably many of you have had to fight the good fight, and I still fight the good fight internationally, where I do a lot of content development for online training for international organizations, and everybody's like, we just want a 60-minute taped over PowerPoint. What are you talking about online content? I'm like, do you want a training or do you want voice over PowerPoint? Because they're not the same. And I don't know about you, but if I'm listening to a voice over PowerPoint, maybe I make it 5 minutes in before I'm doing something else, checking my email, or I don't know, watching TV or do Netflix or whatever. I mean, you need to engage the content to learn the content. And I think that that's one of the hardest things for new faculty to grasp, new administrators to grasp, and really understand, right? There's a difference. There is a market and a place for like a 60-minute lecture, like, I'm not, by the way, but I'm the Nobel laureate chemist who discovered X, Y, and Z things, right? Like, okay, I teach it at Harvard. No, not everybody's coming to my classroom, so fine, I'll tape a 60-minute lecture. Maybe somebody wants to go through that on their own time and stop and whatever, but they're just listening to a lecture, not a learning exercise. So really driving that home to our faculty and staff, and especially the new faculty that we're hiring to teach online. Look, this is about engaging the content. You got to think about it as sort of a block of clay, because my wife and I are watching these pottery shows now, a block of clay that needs to be molded and shaped, right? And you got to do that by being hands-on and engaging the content. So I think that's crucial. And then the our faculty generally don't even know how to use Canvas. So that's a challenge, or Blackboard, whatever the LMS is, and really thinking about that. So there's lots of challenges, right? And especially as we sort of, you can't just hand over the course to a faculty and expect them to be successful, which of course then affects student outcome.
Am I advancing?
Yes, please. So, this has been a problem that I've been thinking about and dealing with internally at the university for, I would say, 6 years or so. I was the director of the Master's in Biotech before I moved into the dean's office, and really always thinking, how do we support the faculty with online content, and even thinking for myself, right? Like, I have these things I need to fix. I don't know how to fix them. I don't have time. I don't even know what I don't know. What am I supposed to do? The adjunct bandwidth is so low, and we want the students to have a good experience. We want good evaluations, sure, but more importantly, we want students to learn something, right? If they're paying me, they're paying the university somewhere on the order of $6,000 for a course, we want to make sure they're getting something out of it. We need to be able to free up time that's already strapped from faculty and leadership, so that we can really focus on the student. I think the humanized and student, I've been doing some artificial intelligence work the last few weeks in learning about AI, and the theme in AI the saying makes me nuts, but it's true, is keeping the human in the loop, right? It's the same thing with sort of online content and delivery, and keeping the human in the loop, but minimizing the things that people shouldn't be spending too much time on, and really maximizing the student in the loop, and really helping engage the student and provide a valuable learning experience for them, right? I mean, that's why we all teach, really, is for the students. And if I'm spending 90% of my time trying to fix my online content or do something I don't even know what I'm doing, right? Like, that leaves me 10% of the time for the students, and they suffer, and the course suffers, and I'm frustrated, and I don't want to teach again. And it's like this virtual cycle of badness, as opposed to goodness, which is what we're always trying to go for, because we want to provide the high quality learning. I don't think we want to just have students sort of go it alone. And definitely the faculty concierge, the faculty success program has been super appealing too, because it's really appealing, and cost the cost benefit analysis is really great. Also for administrators like me, right? Like, it's within a budgetary range where I can make the decision without getting 155 different approvals. So, I can provide the support to the faculty. The faculty love this support. It also does, the college and the program a great deal of service, because, we always say that we care about our faculty and our students, but we don't always act that way. So really trying to think about how we can be more innovative and provide those sort of supports for the faculty. And this is sort of a low hanging fruit, no brainer to me. Like, why wouldn't we do this, right? Like, saves so much time and makes the courses so much better, and just all around a win-win.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Jared, thank you for sharing your experience. And I think what's really important is, in addition to everything else, is the appeal and the decision process. That was really interesting to me when you shared, your thought processes when you went through that. What I'd like to do is just a quick time check and open and ask participants any questions for Jared related to his experience, his faculty's experience. As he mentioned, he's both administrator and teaching. So any questions from that perspective feel free. If there are any questions related to Faculty Concierge, feel free. I think we have about 4 or 5 minutes left. I'm happy to stay on. I don't know if others would need that, but
I think the other thing that's interesting, right, that often surprises people, and maybe John, you can comment on this, because I don't think it's that uncommon. Like universities like Northeastern want to deliver meaningful online content experiences and support their faculty, but just internally, we just don't have the resources or the infrastructure put in place to do that. So programs like this really go a long way in giving us the capabilities to execute high impact learning for the students, right? I mean, yeah, there's a lot of schools that have that kind of support, but there's also a lot that don't.
Yeah, I think there's many more that don't than do, right? And it's interesting. You use the words when we first started talking through this. I don't have to beg for resources. Do you know what I mean? They're just there. That holistic, that multidisciplinary team that I showed earlier is there. Now, some of those talents might be with one person, maybe, or maybe it's spread across 5 or 6. But the bottom line is, when faculty need the support, any type of support, they're not running around campus begging for it. It's right there and available to them. I know, as someone who supported 3 or 4, well, I'll say 4 campuses at one time, it was the relationships that were being created, and folks felt like, there's one resource. So I know when to call John. I know, where he lives and what his text number is and this, that, and the other thing. But there's no begging in this, and there's equal resources across, and it can scale for 100 faculty to thousands of faculty, and that's because of our base. The other thing that I wanted to put out there too is that many institutions are asking if their faculty support personnel can have access to these resources as well, because they might be working on a problem for a faculty member and want a little either guidance or share it with a peer, or looking for an alternative way of designing and developing and just getting some feedback. And of course, yes, it's open to faculty and faculty support personnel.
And I also think it's great from the perspective of coordinating all those resources too, right? Because I don't know, faculty will often ask me a question about how to do something or what they want to do, and I don't even know who to ask. I don't even know where to go. If they can ask, and somebody on the team will be like, "Oh yeah, I know how to do that," or where to go. So
outcomes. I'm sorry, I missed it. I think, did you talk through more?
I think so, yeah.
And the only thing I'd like to put out here, for those of you who are faculty, faculty support personnel, or other, if you're interested in participating in the Faculty Success Program or learning more about the Faculty Concierge, we do have programs where faculty can get in one-on-one if they just, if you want to use your annual development budget, your personal development budget at the institution, to participate in this. It's as Jared said, it's very economical. It's like $85 a month per faculty member to participate in this. But we do have something called the Faculty Success Program that you can sign up on your own, or bring a bunch of your colleagues in with you. The information's here. Feel free to reach out to Gina Geiser, who's in the chat room. She, as she mentioned earlier, she works on our institutional partnerships, as does Jordan Meyer, who's on as well, I believe. Feel free to reach out to either one of them. Visit the site, and we hope that you'll take advantage of that. And here's our follow-up information. Feel free to reach out with any questions as a follow-up, or if you want to share some information or get involved somehow with our Nectar design panel and help guide and shape the next phase of this Faculty Concierge. We'd love to hear from you and share some thoughts and ideas, and maybe get you more involved. And wow, we're right at 12 o'clock. And Jared, just let me say one more time, thank you so much for taking the time to pre-engagement, post-engagement along the way to share your thoughts. It's been tremendous partnership. I've learned a lot. We've learned a lot. We've adjusted from lots of your feedback, and I look forward to future discussions when we bring this to other communities as well.
Thanks, John, for the opportunity. It's been great fun and a really important partnership to our programs.
Fantastic. All right, everyone. Have a great day.